a lot of fun earlier on today with this panel, and I know we're going to have a good time with this one as well. Let me share with you a touch about the format so you know where I'm kind of going on this. I've put a path of questions together, but if you want to chime in, if you'd like to ask a question, in the chat, there's the chat and there's also the question field. Sometimes the chat gets really busy and I won't be able to keep up with it. So if you do want a question, I'll try to check out the question field often also. And the format is, number one, I mentioned they don't know all this, but some fun kind of crazy questions, because the goal is twofold. We want to have them share with them about themselves. We want to get to know them really genuinely and authentically, more about who they are. But the second outcome of today is some tips and tricks and tools and really understanding what it took for them to get where they are today. And we're going to start out with how they got to where they are today. Then we're going to go to some project things, because we talked a lot about failure on Monday. So I'm going to be asking them about how they failed in projects. Be quite interesting. And on the final segment is about the future of leadership. Where are we going as one ISG? So if you do have a question that fits into one of those categories, potentially time it for that segment. All right. With that, I'm going to introduce our panelists here. We have a couple of executive sponsors and in addition, some goal advisors, and all are joining us and had a chance to meet everyone. So I'll give some quick one-line intros to everybody. Nice to see you all. Good day, good morning, good afternoon. Give everybody a wave. Chat them up, everybody. Say, hey, good to see you. Please, we'll make sure that's working so I can see it. First, I want to introduce Richard Ang. He's on the lower left-hand side of my screen, Vice President, Product Development Engineering. An extensive track record in managing and developing highly scalable cloud services, cross-platform technology, and global scale cross-functional teams. Richard, welcome thanks for being executive sponsor. Second executive sponsors, Raja Pohani, Vice President, Product Management. Raja is responsible for roadmap planning, implementation, competitive feature selection, technology offerings, and revenue margin planning for the Power Edge portfolio. We've got three goal advisors here. Tejas Pundit, Senior Director, Software Engineering, currently responsible for cyber recovery, cloud disaster recovery, and cloud backup SaaS products for data protection team in the storage division. And then we'll go to Aparna Badkundri. I've been working on that, Aparna. She helped me get through that. I really appreciate that. Yes, absolutely. Senior Director of Software Engineering. She's also passionate about mentoring. And this is, I pulled this line out. I love passionate about mentoring, which fits so well into this panel. She's been a mentor for future women in leadership, as well as for unprivileged girl engineering students. She loves challenging herself. With 2 daughters in a leadership role, her bucket is always filled with challenges for sure. And finally, Vivek Rajendran. Currently Director of Software Engineering, currently engaged in thought leadership within the company and externally with the Confederation of Indian Industry and the Indian Green Building Council. That's a lot to get out, but I wanted to give everyone a quick hit of who you are. So formally, thank you for joining us. Truly appreciate your time. Now I kind of have to share with everybody. You're welcome. As we kind of had a chance to meet very briefly, but several questions, and the line of questions you may have heard backstage of where we're going to go with the line of questioning. I won't address every question to every person. We don't have enough time, unfortunately. However, if there's a question where I don't get asked to, and if you want to add something to it, please, by all means, jump in. We want to make sure we hear if there's an extra idea or tip that someone can really get out of it. And I got to share with everyone, this is kind of odd. I can kind of hear what's going on. We call it the backstage when people are getting ready in the green room. And they're talking about donuts in Bangalore. Remember this? And donuts in Bangalore. And I'm like, I just want to know, I think it was Raja, you were talking, what the heck is this donuts in Bangalore story all about?
Yeah, so actually one of the most fun jobs I had was in our Bangalore center back in 2006 to 2008. And it was me, a couple other expatriates from Austin, and there were a lot of kind of international businesses coming into Bangalore at that time. And one of them came in was a donut shop. And it was kind of the first Western style donut shop. One of the other expats was like, hey, got this donut this weekend. And, when you're living overseas, you kind of miss some of the comforts of home. So we sent someone out to go get us donuts. And in our exuberance, we ended up ordering like 3 dozen donuts that 3 of us, actually probably it was 4 dozen donuts, that 3 of us polished off in about 3 hours. And in the office, in donut induced comas in the afternoon, it became a pretty good story for the rest of the Bangalore team. And every time the three of us are together, people seem to go get us donuts. So that's the story.
I had to ask. Thank you so very much. Well, we're going to start out with some fun questions that there's nothing you possibly could have prepared for these. So I'll kind of call out your name, short, quick answers for us. But Tejas, tell me this, fill in the blank. The last thing I binged watched was
Scam 1992. That's one of the story. I think some of the people who are kind of familiar with Indian stock market will relate to it. It's a story of a scamster who came and who made it big. But the most important episode was episode number 10, where it all is kind of in the retrospective. So I loved that. And I watched all of 10 together. So if you can get access, the Scam 1992 is a one that I binge watched. Thanks.
Well, there must be an affiliate program going on there. You're really promoting it, especially episode number 10. All right. Hey, Aparna, what is your most used emoji? Most used emoji?
A smiley.
Well, now you got to recreate it. Like the normal smiley face or the one with the two hands? Which one is it?
So most common is a normal smiley, and I probably it kind of represents me because I smile quite a lot.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's keep it on. Richard, I know you've traveled a good bit. You're from Seattle currently, right? That's where we're joining us from? All right, Richard.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing you've ever eaten, and would you do it again?
The weirdest thing. I thought I was when I was at Singapore at the time. Was working at Singapore. I think they gave me like meat and everything else, and it was good. But then they said it was like either a horse and then the other one is crocodile. So I thought, all right, that's fine. It tastes like chicken anyway.
Of course it does. So horse, you did say horse and crocodile.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Raja. If people said you acted or looked like a cartoon character, what character do you think they'd be talking about?
Oh gosh. You stumped me on that one. Probably Homer Simpson when he's reaching out for Bart's throat. Right.
Are you reaching out for one of your kids, or who are you reaching out for?
We're gonna leave that one alone.
That's great. Vivek, this one's for you, and then we'll do one more quick round, and we'll start with you, Vivek. So, Vivek, picture yourself, you're walking down the street. I kind of mentioned this earlier on, like that theme song, the little bump, they call that in the conference world. You're walking down the street, and there's a theme song playing for you. What is your theme song?
Mission Impossible.
Oh, nice. Mission Impossible. Another quick one, since you're right there. Stay with it. I'm not asking you to sing Mission Impossible theme song. However, if you were entering the Mr. Universe contest and you had to showcase your talent, what talent would you put in the contest?
Holy crap. Okay, you were right. You couldn't prepare for this one. What talent would I like to do? I can spin a ball on my finger.
That spinning a ball on the finger for the win, Vivek. All right. Mr. Universe is coming at you. You got it. All right, Raja, 3 words only. That's all you get. How would you describe yourself?
That's
one.
Right now, tired.
That's it? Tired.
Those are the 3 words, yeah.
Right now, tired.
Right now, tired. Okay. Hey, Richard, we got a couple more. We'll finish this out, and then we'll get on to some serious stuff. Richard, if you could live in a movie or a movie set, what movie or movie set would it be?
No, I did a video before, like just to do fun. But I was in that True Lies video with Arnie, and they're kind of fighting like crazy, and then I kind of superimposed myself in there just to have fun.
That's impressive. So you put yourself in the movie.
Yes, I
So
did
you
put
literally
myself.
did.
Yep,
All right.
yep. And I showed the video to the whole Microsoft gang when I was still working at Microsoft. Yep.
Cool. All right, Aparna. You're a famous athlete. What sport is it?
Uh, I think lawn tennis.
Lawn tennis?
Yes.
That's different from tennis. That's tennis on grass. Is that correct, or is that a different form of tennis all the way together?
No, that's tennis on grass.
Like in
And
London,
the beauty is I don't
Wimbledon,
play.
lawn tennis.
Right, right. I don't play it, but I love watching.
Awesome. All right, Tejas, that leaves us with yourself, and then we'll get rolling. What was your very first job as a kid, if you had a job as a little kid?
My very first job was to make sure I can run and get my elder cousins the chocolates that they wanted, and I get one out of it. Literally one out of it, right? And they'll have money to kind of buy 20, and I'll get one out of it, but I was satisfied. I mean, that was first paying job for me.
That was the first pay, and you got a piece of chocolate out of it. That's the best part.
That's it. That's it.
All right. So here we go. Today we've talked a lot about visionary leadership. And as things have changed, especially in getting a shared vision, what are some strategies that you have found effective when trying to get your team to share in the vision? And I want to start with Vivek, and we'll go to Richard and then Aparna. So Vivek, how have you got your team to share in the vision?
So I'm a very visual person. For me, visualization of what success means, and it's a very big part of me. And one of the things I really like to do is to allow people to create that shared picture, if you will. Right? What does success look like? And how do they see themselves part of that picture? What role are they playing in that picture? And together we are building the story out together, right? So as the picture gets more participants, you get a more complex picture, you get a bigger picture. And what I've seen is everybody connects very quickly, very viscerally on what is that their role is, what they should be expecting from that. And for me, that's been a very big piece, and that's been, at least I found that working for me very, very effectively.
Awesome. Richard, what do you think?
I would say just being inclusive, trying to understand in the team, there will be different people have different talents in the team, and you just have to really cultivate those talents. The key for leadership is that you have to surround yourself with people that's smarter than you are. And then once you've done that, once you create the vision together, you just have to harness on everyone's skill sets and be able to hone those in and be inclusive.
Awesome. Aparna.
Yep.
So for me, it is about creating hope and people getting excited about that hope. And it's about defining why are we doing what we're doing and how are we going to do, and telling what's in for them. It's very important that an individual understands what's in for them.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm liking some of the comments here in chat. It's true. It tastes like chicken. Some people want to try horse and crocodile. That's pretty wild. How about by a show of hands of the five of you here, who set out, like when you started at your careers, not even at Dell Technologies necessarily, who set out and said, listen, I'm in this to be a leader. I'm in it to win it and go. Did you always set out that way? So the opposite would be, organically. So we had one, Tejas. You didn't. Did it organically happen?
Yeah, I think, okay, now you're kind of forcing me to go back memory lane. So I will take a minute or two here, right? So yeah, absolutely, right? So the way it started, right? So my first goal was I was kind of intern in a Six Sigma division, right? And I had someone who can work with the numbers very well, who can write a script around it and just kind of make the dashboard out of the 700,000 line database or Excel spreadsheet that time for the entire legacy Emcee treasury, right? my thing was like, wow, this guy's doing something phenomenal, right? The kind of insights we're getting out of it, kind of crunching those data, right? That's how it all started, right? And I wanted to kind of learn that. And then, okay, you crunch the data, then you have to present it well. So you learn that, right? And that's where I realized that I had a very unique ability or kind of a skill that I acquired when I was a computer science grad. I also kind of got a chance to do my MBA, right? And I ended up in MBA just by the chance, right? Purely by chance, because I wanted to do my master's in information system, and the top tier university, which was giving me a full scholarship, they had the information system course, not in computer science faculty, but with MBA, because they were maybe a visionary for the big data and kind of a way forward. And that's what I realized, that I have this unique skill where I'm a computer science grad, right? I can code. At the same time, now I know how to crunch data and how I can represent it. That's how my journey started. And one thing I kept doing is my two consecutive jobs were never both technical or both business, right? So I kept alternating the job between the technology and business. And it's just kind of one thing added to other. I definitely never started or never thought that like I'm gonna be a leader here, right? It just said kept working, kept learning, and then there is a choice that you've got to make. And I keep saying this to everyone that I mentor is or kind of or I can talk to even in my skip level roundtable, that leadership is a choice that you make, right? It's not that like somebody forced that thing through your throat. So if you made a choice, now you have to stand up to it, right? But that's how the things kept adding for me. But yeah, that's my journey. Thanks for asking.
No, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that and for sharing some of the background. So leadership isn't always something that's it's driven for. It's organically grown. I love the different aspects of those stories. I mean, it's continuous improvement throughout as well. And how would you say, and a question for all of you, jump in please here, in terms of leadership and how it has changed in the past 12 months? I know that many of you have worked virtually and have teams virtually throughout probably a lot of your career, but how have you seen leadership roles change when dealing with so many people remote?
Let me
Rajat,
go
I'll let you
first.
jump in if you got it. Oh, you got
right.
it, Vivek. Yep.
All right. So I think a lot of it is now on trust. The level of engagement has now, because you're all remote, because you're doing, you have got to be able to assign tasks, work tasks, and become independent. I think in the previous session we heard a little bit about how do you know how do you manage your time being remote and stuff. All of that also is predicated on the fact that you have really good levels of engagement, really good levels of trust with your team, and for me that's become a huge change. The percentage, if you dial it up and go back and say how much has it dialed up, in my, at least in my mind, it's easily like a 50 100% increase in the level of trust that we've now had to have with our teams. And it's natural. It's just natural for me, right? That's one big change for me. Others?
Yeah.
So I could go next. For me, leadership principles haven't changed per se. What worked prior works now. The only thing is, what am I explicit about? I wouldn't have probably used words to express a few things now, which I take extra efforts and make sure that I am more of the understanding and empathy aspect. That's what I probably am more focusing on from my point of view in the virtual world.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I
Who else
mean,
wants to jump in?
there seems to be, at least for me and some of the folks I'm around, a greater emphasis on kind of the people aspect of it. I mean, not that it wasn't important before, but it's extra important now. You've got to make sure that you're creating the paths for your team to get to you when they need you. Before, team members would tell me, "Hey, look, I don't need 30 minutes with you. I need 30 seconds with you." And the 30 seconds that we would get walking out of a room or you'd see in the hallway. So, for me, one of the big adjustments is making sure that you're extra accessible in ways that your team needs to pull on you. And in some cases, I'm just texting them, I'm calling them, I'm, just, hey, how are things going? Just checking in, because they may not get on my calendar wanting 30 minutes. They may just need that 30 seconds. That combined with, gosh, I know so much more about my team's family. Aparna talked about empathy. I see the kids coming into Zoom calls. I feel like I know them better. But then the last part is new team members now have a much harder time integrating into the team because they don't have the connections that the established team members had from years in the hallway. And how do you kind of lead the integration of new organizations in scenarios where you can't get them into a room, you can't get new people together, you can't get into whiteboard sessions? And so the being explicit, being clear, but also being accessible, I think, are the changes that we probably used to take for granted.
I think that's so true. Those water cooler cubicle conversations, how do we recreate those is key. How have others recreated those one-off conversations to build relationship? Or continue on the first question if helpful as well. Anyone had something successful along those lines that you've really tried to connect people virtually?
Yeah, I guess so. I can go next, right? So I think Raja brought up a very good point, right? It's not about the half an hour meeting, right? That you have to have your own on your calendar, right? I'm seeing the emergence of those 15-minute blocks or even 5 or 10-minute blocks where people know that I'm going to be calling them, right? And this doesn't have to be Zoom meeting, right? So my admin will kindly help me to kind of say that, like, okay, they're just going to call you, right? Having those 5-10 minute conversations, those kind of connections are important. The second thing I'm seeing, and I'm learning from some of the new team members who have joined us during this pandemic, right? And what they're doing, and especially the like 2 team members who joined my my staff, what they are doing is they are trying to kind of almost map the what we used to call this the kind of immediate circle and the next circle, right? So first and foremost, you want to know about like all of the people that you're gonna work with day in and day out. But don't stop there, right? As Raja said, right, having those conversations and whole way conversations is going to be very important. So what they are doing next, they're trying to reach out to kind of some of the kind of a next level of circles, right? People that they would have kind of seen like once in a month in some of the reviews, right? But maybe important from the cross-functional team perspective and others to try to kind of expand that circle and just have like 5 or 10 minute introduction call. You don't have to have those whole half an hour or 1 hour call saying like, hey, this is what's happening and what you're doing, but just 5-10 minutes call, right? Have those conversations. Last but not the least, I think I personally do this is I have a half an hour every day blocked to make some of those additional random calls as well. It's absolutely important, right? I have called people and I just found out that like I didn't know that they were going through this pandemic or somebody near and dear was impacted by pandemic for them. And by accident, I just kind of found out when I called. And that point onwards, I think you find a very new connection, right? So I don't hope that kind of the worst case happened there, but there are some good cases as well. I found someone who got married, right? Or who had a kid. Those things are important.
Awesome. Tejas, thank you. And thanks for the comments in here. Daniel, you're right about how can you help this build their network for new team members, especially. And is it HEMA about Friday, the fun Friday slot, virtual lunches and playing Pictionary to get to know each other. Great opportunities. I'm going to have people continue in chat for just a moment because we're going to move on to tools from books to podcasts. Put some of your favorite leadership tools or podcasts that you listen to in the chat if you wouldn't mind so other people can see what you're doing. As they're doing that, I'm going to come back and start with Aparna, and then we'll go to Richard and Vivek. Tell me about if there's favorite, I'll call them tools. It could be a YouTube channels, books, people that you've worked with. What are some of the things that you use to continue your personal development?
So I describe myself like a sponge, and I learn from everybody. So I am a good observer, and here on the panelist are people I work for and work with. I normally look at how they are making a difference, and I learn from them. I learn from my kids on a daily basis. So age no bar, role no bar. That's one of the things that I normally use for learning myself. I do read quite a bit and also use a lot of YouTube channels. which in specific, so I wouldn't pick one over the other, or this is what I use per se. But there's some very nice Harvard Business Reviews which are or leadership principles that are shared on a daily basis. I've subscribed to that, and I would read that. I'd read that story, and that's the way I've groomed myself.
Awesome. Thanks, Aparna. Richard, what would you suggest to other folks? What kind of tools to help them grow?
Yeah, for me, it really depends on the passion and what you really want to do. So for me, since I'm in the technology side of the business, I keep myself updated on technology. In fact, I do hands-on development myself, so I could spend my time doing something, doing DIY, connecting something, making something work, and as part of work, that's just keeping myself up to date with all the hyperscaler technologies and everything else, right? It's like boring stuff, like, okay, you're doing that work, but again, you do what you want to do, and then you excel on those, and you learn more as you do them.
Awesome.
Yep.
Vivek, Raja, want to jump in at all? Share anything different?
So information is now not now there is no dearth of information. In fact, it's a fire hose out there, right? So you need to pick the right things. I like what Richard said. So you have a passion, you build on that passion. There is a theme. You go subscribe to those source avenues of data, and then you build that repository for yourself. But I think one of the key things is the dedication or the commitment to yourself to dedicate time for your learnings. There has to be opportune time, which means whether you carve it out in your calendar or you get more disciplined about it. Richard, like for example, I love what you said about DIY. I just love doing that myself as well. So, tinkering around with stuff. There's so many things. There is just so many ways. You just need the commitment to recognize that you need to grow and you need to learn. You need to keep aside time for yourself. That's the biggest thing in my mind, that if you're committed to doing that, opportunities will come.
Awesome. So how about this? Let's change and move on. Sorry, want to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we talked about knowledge and how to go apply that. The piece, for me on top of that is just people. You learn just by watching and engaging other people, right? Because now you're getting the sum of their experience. And I know for me, some of the things that I've learned the most have just been in the room and seeing how other leaders have reacted to scenarios and situations. And doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just different models that, if you soak up, you start developing your own model. That's the sum of everybody else's experiences that you've engaged with. And so that has always been something that I've practiced myself and encourage other people. Observe, right? Question, engage, talk to those folks offline, why they came up with what they came up with, why they said what they said. And that becomes, your own lessons in leadership, real time.
I think that's great. And it kind of, I think, leads in, Raja, to where we're going to go in a sense, because it's like maybe not they're all mentors, but observing and listening to folks who have given guidance, who have been there before, of course, charted a path before you. How about by show of hands for the 5 of you, how many have a mentor at one point in their career as they've grown? Got 2, 3 of you, it looks like. 4. Teja, I can't see if your hand's up. You can stick it in front of your face. Maybe those squares sometimes get a little small. So I was thinking probably all of you did. Actually, for everyone at home or wherever you're watching, give me a thumb up or a yes, whatever. If you have a mentor or mentee relationship, I'd love to see what percentage of our viewers have as well. So Raja, I'll stick on you then for a moment. The mentor that you have or mentors, did you seek them out, and how did you actually ask them, or was there a formal ask to be menteed or mentored by them?
Yeah, so I really never had a formal mentor, right? So you asked the question, how many had? I had mentors. I just never had a formal one. I think the first one that I would really have said was a mentor was I got pulled into an assignment out of Austin into Asia running enterprise services for APJ. and the VP, or I guess the senior vice president that I was attached to, actually became a mentor and a really good friend, and someone I learned a tremendous amount from. And then, as I went through my career, there were other people. One of the leaders when I went to Bangalore actually became like a big brother of mine, right? I mean, so you find these people that even to this day, with both of them, I'm still pretty close to, both professionally and personally, that they've become just a part of your support system uh, in a way that it's, beyond just being a mentor, beyond a program, beyond an attachment. It is something that it's ingrained in now the relationship. And I've had a few of those, and they've been the ones who've been the most impactful on my career and frankly elements of my life.
I bet. And is this big brother one that helped you eat 4 dozen donuts? Is that part of the bonding relationship?
No, he was
No?
the one who
Okay.
thought that the other 3 of us were idiots for doing so.
Aparna, tell me about yourself from having a mentor. How did that come about?
So the initial stages of my career, I self-assigned mentors. So work with people. There are different things that attract you, and you want to learn specifically, and you want to get challenged. You want different point of views that you can look from. You have certain approach towards a thing. And so depending upon what you would appreciate in a person, I used to walk up to that leader or leader, and I would just say that I want to get mentored from you. And it was more of my questions which I would ask, and that's the relation that started building. And I would agree to Raja, the kind of relation that goes beyond just that work relation. I mean, it becomes like a support system for you, and they remain with me even today, irrespective of where they are. I was lucky with the Gold program to get a formal mentor, and I have Travis Vigil as my mentor. And just hearing him out and hearing the life stories, hearing experiences, there's so much different point of view that you could get. But I would want to make a point here that not one mentor. It's not a person trying to tell you everything. I had different mentors, different people, and I learned different aspects from each one of them.
Neat. Well, then you all have had mentors. How about mentees? Raise your hand so we can all see real quick. I mean, how many have mentees that you support? Okay. Richard, tell me, how did that mentee come out? Did they come directly ask you? And I'm responding to some of these folks in the chat. Some do and some don't. So if they wanted to get one, what's some of the processes?
Yeah. So it comes in many different shapes. One is, us based on the conversation, based on relationship building, people starting to ask questions, people are starting to ask, hey, what are the things that work? And then you start sharing. Because from my perspective, it's not a one-way thing. You learn both ways. So I do spend time with my teams, and in fact, someone outside of my team, even skip levels and everything else, they could come and they could say, hey, we would like to get your perspective on this one, and then you do a both two-way sharing, and then you learn from the people that's coming to you, and they learn from you as well, and then you share as much information as possible. So some people will come to me and says, can you be my mentor? Some people will just start with a relationship, just have that. Sometimes it's better to do a recurring one and mix it with some discussion, share experiences, and all these things combined.
Awesome. Tejas, quick tip on how a person should ask to be mentored by you. What would you suggest?
Best thing is to start with the introduction meeting. I think before we even commit to each other, the best thing is to kind of know what's your objectives are. Do I fit those objectives, or am I capable of kind of really, or am I the best person really to guide you? If not, definitely I will. If I know, I will definitely guide you to the other person. But then if yes, definitely more than happy to mentor you. Thanks.
Excellent. All right. We spent a lot of day one talking about failure and failing forward and failing often and starting each day with failing. We had a chance to talk just a tiny little bit on kind of a pre-show call about some projects and some failures. And I know they're tough things to talk about, and it brings up bad memories, but they're great learning elements. And especially other people want to know that we've all had things go bust. So how about let's start, in fact, we'll start down on your side, if that's all right. Talk to me about a project that just went and bombed, and why.
Okay. So Raja, you probably remember this. This is what, 2012, 2013. I'm not going to name the program. Laurie Tolson, does that ring a bell? Okay. So we had a project that we started in 2012, and to put it into context, if you were trying to build a plane, or while we figured out the plane is on the runway, we figured out that, we don't want a passenger plane, we wanted a cargo plane. Then the plane took off, and then we said, oh crap, no, we needed a plane that was 3 times the size. And no, it had everything changed on its side, right? So that was a program that was like, no, went straight down. And a lot of incredible lessons from that. It was an incredibly frustrating period. Oh, by the way, while the plane was taxiing, we were hiring the people to build the plane. So no, so we were just, it was just chaos. So a lot of things were going wrong in that project from day one. And the biggest lesson for me and from that project was really is stakeholder management. It's just understanding and managing stakeholders, managing their expectations. Second thing for the big thing for me was really on communication. How well do you communicate across? Because this was a global program. We had teams across the world, and lot of lessons that we learned from that experience has today in a way helped us manage a lot of the ambiguity that we have today. We live with ambiguity on a daily basis, ridiculous amounts of ambiguity at times, but we've just learned how to handle that really well today. So if we have to replay what we did in 2012, I'm pretty certain we would be successful in that. We'd make a winner out of it. We've learned the mechanics of it now. So the big takeaway for me in that lesson was failure can teach you a lot of things.
It certainly can. That's why I said we definitely spent some time in it. When you say it went down, if it's a plane, it was literally going down. That's not a good sign. But and I know more than one of you took part in that project. Well, then how do you manage? I'm sure there was the ambiguity of the information, the project, but how about managing conflict? If you have to make different decisions, you've all had to manage a conflict. Tejas and Aparna, how would you say you've had to manage conflict in that scenario?
When you want to go first?
Sure. You got it, Tejas. Yeah. Managing conflict. How do you do that successfully?
Okay, I'll go first. I think first and foremost is always remember, and this is something that I have on my wall here, it's not about the individual, but it's about the issues. Okay? Many times during such tough situation, right? Everybody loves to be successful. We all love to, right? But then we're not going to have that success and everything going right way all the time. But when things go tough, always remember, it's not about the individual, it's about the issues. Why? Because many times when the emotions get involved, right? That's where the conflicts start. You try to kind of separate the individuals versus issues. You want to love, you want to empathize with the individuals, you want to go behind the issues, and you want to go behind the issues very hard. Not the individual, but the issues. But that's something which has helped me over years. So it's the issue and not the individual.
Aparna, what would you think you'd add to that?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with Tej about the problem. Mm-hmm. The other aspect is to understand that we judge ourselves by our intent and others by actions. So it's very important that when we are in a conflict situation, we give the other person the benefit of doubt, and again make sure that you are not making the person feel that the person is an issue. It's the situation, the environment. That's very important.
Yes. Thank you. Well, then let's jump up, Richard, and we'll go to Raja, but on a different topic, is feedback. And we have to manage conflict, of course, but obviously as a good leader, giving feedback and even receiving feedback, tips, tricks, suggestions that what you've done best.
Look, in every circumstances, in my view, there's when giving feedback, there is some part that the person is doing right, and then there are parts where it needs improvement. So I think it's best to balance both, because you don't just go in there and provide feedback specifically to do with personalities or everything else, but on the situation itself. Now, I just want to add a little bit on the conflict side, because part of giving feedback is when I give advice to people, especially with conflict. First of all, typically conflict has ego involved in there. And what I normally say to people is that, hey, let's start with a 50-50 accountability. Every time there's a conflict, you take 50% accountability of that conflict, and the other person takes 50% accountability, and then you start there. Because normally a conflict will not be resolved, and that's part of the feedback process as well, where conflict is not resolved if someone feels like I'm completely out of blame and the other party is 100% at fault, right? Once that is in that place, then that conflict will never be resolved. So I basically then will tell people, hey, as part of feedback, let's look at 50-50. What could have you done differently? Because you can control your 50%. You cannot control the other 50%. But if you start with your 50% accountability, you could perhaps, that's part of the feedback process, and that's part of managing conflict as well.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Rajan, what do you think you could add to that potentially?
I'll turn it around a little bit and maybe more about receiving. And, I think, the best thing that you can do is solicit and receive. You don't always have to act, right? But usually the feedback that people are giving you comes from their perspective relative to your effectiveness or your ability to get something done, or even how you lead, how you lead people, how you bring people towards you. And so, you won't get there without getting the feedback and figuring out how you're going to react to it. Because no matter how good we think our styles are, our styles don't work for everyone in every circumstance. You need to know when you need to, employ tool A versus tool B, versus let things play, versus really go in there and try to help people. Learning that, the situational awareness, you won't get that without feedback. Everybody looks pretty good in the mirror, right? But you've got to get that feedback to understand how you go lead people and drive outcomes. And I know in my own experience, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't get that feedback. And some of it was pretty harsh back, 12, 13 years ago. And I had to work through that and work that out, and then let enough time go by so that people didn't say, well, I haven't dealt with him lately, but he used to be like this. And if it wasn't for feedback from the people that I worked with, that's how careers don't end.
Sure.
Thank you.
So
Here's
I'm
one
going
for
to
all.
add something here.
Yes, please do, Aparna. Thank you.
So, feedback, it has a negative connotation for whatever reasons, because probably in the past, the way the feedback has been handled. We say feedback is a gift, but it's all about relationships. So what I have learned is, however good what your intent would be, it's very important that the person in front has a relationship, a trust relationship with you, so that when you're giving the feedback, it's seen as a care and not as finding faults or something, or improvement areas, and you're not going to be punished. So I think you don't go and give feedback to people you don't care about. So if somebody is giving you feedback, you're getting it's because there is an aspect of care and there's an investment into you. At the same time, going and giving feedback without a relation is not going to scale. So that's a learning that I had, and I think it's a game changer. Relationship and constructive feedback go together.
Awesome. It absolutely could be a game changer. And that leads to where we're going about learning new skills based on feedback. I heard someone chime
Jon,
in. Vivek? Yep.
Yes, Jon. So I have maybe a slightly alternate viewpoint of this, if I may. So for me, there are two parts. Feedback has to be timely. The principle that I have for myself and my organization, I keep talking about all the people I work with, is if you have feedback to be given, make sure it is done within 24 hours, 48 hours at the outside. If it has not been given within 24 hours, it's probably not that important or hasn't really affected you as much, so therefore drop it. So timely feedback is very important. I also like to spend some time on feed forward. I like what Aparna said. So for me, feedback is, yes, useful. Feed forward is something that I spend a lot of time with my team and my folks, is around like, no, hey, this is great. Here's how you could have done this differently, and where it would have helped you in moving forward. So I look at that as a feed forward model as opposed to a feedback model, and that's something which has helped me tremendously.
Well, I bet. Great perspective and different way of looking at it, of course. Well, then, Vic, we'll stay with yourself, because where I was going to go is from feedback, we learn new skills. And as we move into, later into 21, 22 and beyond, this is a question for all five of you. Short answers is great, but what new skills do you see yourself needing to learn as we go into 21, 22 and one ISG?
I don't know if it's specifically for one ISG, but I'm having to relearn a lot of the communication mechanisms, if you will, because our workforce has changed dramatically. The millennial in the workforce today, being able to connect and engage with them is something which is very important. So my style of communication, which was fine 10 years ago, working with my peers and my like-minded folks, if you will, has now become very different. So how do I stay relevant? How do I stay connected? So a lot of unlearning and relearning is happening for me from communications. And of course, in a way, it does help in a one ISG way, because I have to communicate with multiple businesses, multiple teams, people that I've never met with, never been engaged, never really had a long relationship with. So starting from baseline, rework and relook at my communication pieces. That's one of the things I'm very actively actually going through right now.
Great. Richard, then Tejas, what new skills do you see yourselves needing to learn going forward?
Sure. I came from the outside coming in. I work at Microsoft. I had my own startup. I work at Oracle before I joined Dell. And part of the new skills that I'm kind of learning as I inject myself in is to understand more and more how Dell works, the culture of Dell, the institutional knowledge that makes Dell very successful, and to effectively blend the skills, from the outside in, and leveraging the skill sets within, and kind of blend it to make sure that it complements each other and it's working.
Awesome. Tejas.
Yeah, you just kind of asked in the context of one ISG, right? So as I personally learn, I come from data protection unit, but then the kind of storage and now the unstructured and secondary storage unit, right? As I look more and more into ISG, learn more about one ISG, I'm really surprised and enthused by the kind of IP and capabilities, the product capabilities that we got across the portfolio. What I want to learn in next 1 year is to make sure how I can convince my team to use some of this great capability versus trying to develop anything of their own, right? We all are product engineering guys, and we all want to make that kind of very customized, best in class stuff. But sometimes good enough is good, because then that good enough, the energy not spent on making that good enough great gives you that extra bandwidth to make your overall product differentiated and great. So somewhere else you can invest. So how I can convince my team, and how I can convince some of the other teams who can leverage my my portfolio's capabilities, right? But that's where I am going to be kind of focusing on to learning new skills. And I know this is a different negotiation and tough. So that's where my energy is going to go.
Excellent. Aparna, what are you going to learn new?
So with one ISG mindset, the silos are breaking. So it's important that my learnability hat is on. I learn not just about my product, but what's going around me. Be bold to people. Ask what they're doing. Ask for help. Reuse not just code, but the skill sets. So I think I would want to invest into being more aware and learn about the entire ISG portfolio than limiting myself to my portfolio. So and reach out more people. That's my take.
Awesome. Raja, one quick add-on, then we'll do a couple audience questions and wrap ourselves up.
It's a combination of external communications, analyst and press, and doing it through this medium, right? This medium is much more difficult than being in a room with people where you're establishing a connection. You're able to have a little bit more of a casual conversation. This is hard, especially when you're having to present to large audiences or present in a formal atmosphere. So it's that.
Yeah, presenting through this tile and trying to create that human connection through the tile. How about Richard? I'm going to give you a follow-up question. This is from Rishi, and quick answer is fine if that's okay. What are some ways to groom more talent and leaders? How do you groom them?
Part of my focus in grooming leaders is two aspects. One is IQ, obviously, but the most important one is EQ development. So part of the grooming process is to make sure that people understand that to be successful as a leader, one has to have a good blending of EQ and IQ. And it's not enough for people to be very good and have a very high IQ in what they do. But if they lack the EQ, that kind of will hold them back as well. So part of the leadership grooming is to make sure that people are aware that they have to focus on those two areas and do them to a point where it blends well and that it helps with both in play.
Awesome. And I got one more question here from Samya, and it is: how about when you don't agree with feedback? How do you push back? What do you do? I'll open up to anyone who wants to jump in first on that, but one good solid answer. That's a tough one.
I think that's where a piece about trust comes from, right? Okay, you get feedback. Well, that's where you have trusted folks where you can talk to. Look, I got this piece of feedback. Help me understand it. Do you see it? Do you not? And then maybe someone else will be able to dissect it or add another element to it to either make it make sense or realize that it's a one-off, because you're more likely to internalize it better if it's coming from someone you trust.
Great. Thank you, Raja. Before I do the final wrap-up questions, we'll have some fun ones. Aparna, I got a little bit of communication, you and I back and forth, but about women in leadership. And I know Dell Technologies has a goal by 2030, I believe you shared. Could you just share a touch more on that and your feelings about that and how you want to help?
Yeah, so of course, very passionate about it. But how do I see this, right? So why does a company have a goal? It's not about really going and hiring people. So we can be successful because we have talented people, not because of the gender that we have. So the message that I see with this kind of investment is trying to tell each one of us that is we can towards hiring or towards interacting with gender specifics. Please relook at it. It's important. The company is telling us that it's important to have inclusion, and that's how I look at the number. While you're hiring, don't hire a woman because it's the gender that you're hiring, or you want to satisfy some number. You need to be successful. We need to be successful. That the individual that you're hiring because of the talent that the person gets on table. The second thing is retaining. It's important that you want to, once you hire, it's important that the person feels included. if you're working with you've always been working with a set of men, and if a woman adds to your team, she is going to be different. And this is about diversity. It's not just women. It could be anybody who has some different characteristics than you. Don't alienate them. Don't try to say why are they doing what they're doing and why they're doing something different. They are not going to be like you. So allow that inclusion, and that's where I would think diversity and inclusion would help. Don't make women feel that they are getting a seat just because they're women. They are on here because they deserve and they have the talent, because we are in a business. We are not here in charity.
It is indeed a business. Thank you sharing so much. I know you have a lot of passion behind that, and I wanted to make sure we had the chance to share that or hear that from you. I'm going to give you each one final question. Aparna, I'll start with you since we just wrapped up. These are one-word answers. That's all you get is one word. Okay? Aparna, when you're done working from home, what will you miss the most?
The hot afternoon food.
That's more than one word. Food, I guess hot food. We'll make it 2 words. All right, Vivek. It's almost summer. Well, depending on where we're from, depending on the next season is coming. What's a hobby that you can't wait to do in the next season?
Go swimming.
Swimming, nice. That's me too. I live in Ohio. Ready to get out and get outside. Raja, if someone made a movie of your life, would it be a comedy, a drama, a romance flick, action film, or sci-fi?
Oh gosh, definitely not a romance film. Leave it at that. Probably a life has to be fun.
Comedy, love it. Perfect. Richard, a place that you have or haven't visited, but what is the top one on your list when we can travel anywhere we want? Where's the first place you'd go?
The one that I haven't been to yet is South Africa.
That's a lot of words I'm counting. South Africa, but that's one answer. And Tejas, You get to wrap us up. If you had to get rid of every app on your phone except one, what are you going to keep?
The caller app. That's good enough.
What was it? I missed that. I'm sorry.
I'm saying the caller app, right? I can just make a call. That's good enough.
That's good enough. Awesome. Well,
One call.
we got to wrap because we got something really, really awesome coming up immediately following this. And I'm 1.5 minutes, so 2 minutes over. But audience, please share your appreciation for our panelists for joining us. I truly appreciate Vivek, Aparna, Raja, Richard, and Tejas for being here and sharing some of your insight, your talents, your time. That is a true gift that you've given to us, and we truly appreciate it. All right, everyone, so you are aware, literally right after this, we had a ball earlier. We have this networking session, and it's going to be Battle Royale, where some of the executive sponsors and goal advisors are going to be going head-to-head in games, and you get to join them and cheer them on and potentially be on their team. It's something you don't want to miss. To get there, we're going to be joining the Zoom link. In just a moment, it'll come up underneath the screen. We're going to be headed over there. Rob Foray is back with us again, and we're going to do that right now. Tomorrow, make sure you're on time one more time, and we can't wait to wrap up this incredible conference with our day 4. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Maura. I will see you at the Zoom party.